What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another market update, this time for loose, complete vehicles and action figures from the vintage Star Wars line. As always, thank you to my Patreon supporters. My Patreon supporters get my videos 24 hours early access, usually, if I remember to post to my Patreon page. And if you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, it's patreon.com/actionfiguregrader. We've got a nice wide array of items here, including some items that I haven't touched on before, and one of those being the vintage radio-controlled sandcrawler from 1979. This is a very expensive item. Mint in sealed box, this can go for many, many thousands of dollars. So it was cool to see one sell that was advertised as loose and complete. It had that radio controller there with a little bit of wear to the sticker there, but one of the cooler iconic items from the vintage line. And this one was listed for $875, and the sales price that was accepted was $800. I found another data point for a loose complete sandcrawler that was $860. So $800 to $860. This one was free shipping. That gives you a rough price range for one of these very desirable sandcrawlers. It's a really cool item and kind of ahead of its time, really, and I really like seeing that one sell. Next up was another item that we haven't really talked about loose and complete before, and that's some of the 12-inch line. This is from 1978. This is a 12-inch Han Solo. This included his blaster pistol as well as the medal that goes around him during that Yavin ceremony, and again, it was advertised as very nice condition and complete. It was listed for $299.75, and the final sales price was $275. But it looked to be in really great condition. And Collector Archive Services offers really nice, loose, complete grading for these 12-inch figures. I've seen a number of those for sale over the years, and especially the IG-88. That's a very expensive figure and looks great inside the acrylic carbonite coffin. Next up, I've got a Dianoga trash compactor monster. This was kind of in that trash compactor playset, and we just documented one on the channel that was a 90 plus grade that sold for about $206. This one was listed for $50, and it's, or excuse me, $75, and the final sales price was $50. So pretty easy to pick these up, loose and complete and in very good condition. This was a lot of two. This included Hammerhead as well as an AT driver with their accessories. The AT driver has some kind of notable paint wear, which is always a problem with that figure. But this one around the helmet area, you can see it's got some kind of staining or something going on, as well as a lot of paint chipping on the torso as well as the hands. Just one of those figures that just does not hold up very well over time. And one area that you always want to look at is the butt. The butt on the AT driver just always gets a lot of wear, and this one is no exception. So, you know, the Hammerhead looks to be really clean condition overall, but the AT driver is probably 70-75 condition. But this lot of two did sell in an auction for $52 plus $5 shipping. Just a couple of data points there. And I found a number of different complete Yodas that also sold. And this one is the Cherry Eyes version with the orange snake. It did have a little bit of wear around the hands and the feet. Those are the two most common areas where the Yodas have paint defects. Just really easy to kind of rub off there. But that one looks like the Hong Kong variant, and that one sold for $71 on 28 bids plus $6 shipping. And here's another example that's probably in a little bit worse condition. You can see all the paint wear around the face or dirt or something going on. And one question I've always gotten from subscribers is, how do you clean a figure? Well, the best way to do it is to make sure that you get all the accessories off, and then just soap and water. Soap and water with a toothbrush and very lightly scrub off some of that junk around his face. It looks like Yoda's been rooting around for some truffles in the oh, I don't know what I'm talking about, but he definitely has some dirt going on around the face there. So just, you know, soap and water, toothbrush, and you can try to clean it up as best you can. But a lot of wear around the hands and feet again. Again, a very common problem with these loose Yodas. But that one sold for $68.67. It seems like this one's a little better shape for just, you know, $3 or $4 more, and was probably a better deal. Then here is a brown snake Yoda. Now, a lot of people say, hey, this is the green snake Yoda. Well, there's not really a green snake Yoda. AFA and UKG, they stopped labeling them as the green snake because it's been proven after AFA did some research that the green snake Yoda is just the plastic degradation for the brown snake, and it eventually turns like a greenish color You can see that kind of olive green color to that snake. So just keep that in mind, that there's not really, to my knowledge, a green snake Yoda. It's just a degraded brown snake. Still a very nice figure, though, and the price reflected that. That sold for 125 pounds. Over on the other side of the pond in Ireland, that equates to about $142 and change, plus shipping. So just keep all that in mind for the snake colors. And then where does Yoda live? Well, he lives in the Dagobah Swamp in this awesome playset, kind of a timeless classic. This included the box as well as the paperwork that came inside, as well as the actual playset itself. One thing to note is that this swamp foam that was used on the original vintage toy, that foam tends to degrade and kind of cause dust to go everywhere. So just keep that in mind, that you're going to mostly find these either without the foam at all, or in this condition where the foam is starting to break off. But pretty cool play set, and looks pretty awesome. And then here is the paperwork for that. Number of different box variations for the Dagobah Swamp play set. There's the Canadian box. There's also one that has like a backpack kind of offer for Luke, and it's got a picture of Luke Bespin on a sticker that goes in the lower left-hand corner on the front of the box. But this sold for $125 plus $20 shipping. Here was a loose complete 2-1B medical droid. It looks like the flat blue paint version. A little bit of wear here and there, but pretty nice shape overall. That one sold for $31.50 plus $4.85 shipping. And there are a lot of repro medical staffs out there, so just be careful that it's a trusted seller. For all of these items, again, I'm assuming that they're 100% complete with vintage accessories and that none of this stuff is repro, because that's how they were advertised. But I'm certainly not vetting every one of these eBay sellers, but just be careful out there and compare the photos that are in the eBay sales listing to some of the sources that are online, like the Imperial Gunnery, where they have very nice high-res photos, and they also have nice high-res photos of the actual reproduction accessories, so you can compare and contrast versus the vintage Kenner accessories. Anyway, that medical droid sold for $31.50 plus $4.85 shipping. Here was it looked to be like the red hair Hoth Leia. It's got that kind of reddish tint to her hair, and it was complete with the weapon. That's another weapon that's very commonly reproduced. That one sold, this seller had two of them, $74.95, free shipping on that one, and he's got one still available. But again, in this kind of situation where the seller has two of them available, you want to make sure you reach out and message them and saying, hey, are the ones in the photo the ones that sold, or is it the one that's still available for sale? You want to make sure you know exactly what you're buying. This one had a little bit of paint wear, as you can see. This is at best probably a 75 condition, if not lower. But that still commanded a sales price of $75. Next up, this is another interesting one. We documented a few over the last few months that have sold that were AFA graded. Well, here's a loose, complete Imperial Cruiser, but this included the Empire Strikes Back box. And this is very difficult to find with the ESB packaging. And you can see here it's got the cardboard insert. It's got a tear in the flap on the box, as you can see there. And then also the instruction booklet. But very cool item. And that one was listed for 150 pounds. That sold. And that equates to about $171.50 US plus shipping. Next up is a loose, complete Snowspeeder. The thing you want to make sure on these is that it doesn't have too bad yellowing. This one's got maybe just a slight tint of yellowing to the plastic. And you also want to make sure that it includes the tow cable, the actual piece of string that attaches to that back tow cable gun on the back of the Snowspeeder. The fuselage usually yellows a little bit, and then also the canopy lens can yellow. But this one's in pretty good shape overall, and that one sold for $78 plus $12.45 shipping. Next up was the turret and Probot playset with the ESP packaging. Very cool there. And that it looks like that turret maybe just has a slight bit of yellowing, although it is a slightly different plastic versus the base, the snow and ice base. So it might just be a slight variation in the type of plastic used, but to my untrained eye anyway, it does look like it's maybe just yellowed a slight amount. But that Probot is also a really nice toy and kind of way ahead of its time, if you ask me. But the box was in great shape as well. That one sold for $188.97 with free shipping. Next up, we've got a loose, complete Hoth Snow Trooper. That one sold for $34. Again, with the Snowtrooper, it's the same situation as with the Stormtroopers, the first 12 Stormtroopers, as well as with the first 12 Princess Leia, is that the limbs can oftentimes turn a pinkish hue. And this one looks like it maybe just has a slight pinkish hue to the legs and to the arms, but the torso itself is in pretty great shape overall. This is the variant that has the separate eye lenses on his helmet versus the Univisor lens. And that one, again, sold for $34 plus $6 shipping. Next up, we've got a loose, complete twin pod cloud car, and the box was in fantastic condition. Really nice to see that one in such good shape. And here's another angle here of the back of the cloud car as well as the box, but that box was in great shape. It looks like it's got some tape that was added after the fact, so just keep that in mind, that that's not factory applied tape to my knowledge. Usually the factory applied tape for the Kenner items is a much wider tape. This looks like a piece of Scotch tape is used to hold the box together. Anyway, that sold for $129.97, free shipping. And then also I've got another twin pod cloud car from 1980. This is just for the cloud car without the box. This looked to be in excellent condition overall, maybe just slight yellowing to the canopy lens on that right-hand side versus this one that's maybe just a little bit less yellowed, but overall great condition. Look how clean and orange that twin pod cloud car is. That sold for $60 plus $10 shipping. Next up, I've got a loose, complete cloud car palette, the Hong Kong COO. This one was in pretty immaculate condition overall, probably like an overall 80. The paint on that was excellent. It looks like it's, again, has maybe either some paint chipping or some kind of rubbing going on to the foot as well as to the legs there. It might benefit from another bath that we just talked about. And then it also included the communicator as well as the blaster pistol. That sold for $100, 100 US dollars or 150 Australian dollars plus shipping. So very expensive to find that cloud car palette. He just seems to continue to go up and up in price for loose and complete. And another question I received from Simon, who is a Patreon supporter, he's like, what do you do if you got a really clean figure but you don't have the accessories? He was getting frustrated with finding some of the accessories he needed to complete his vintage figures. And my advice is, when at all possible, don't go down that route. It's worth paying for a loose, complete figure up front versus trying to get a loose, mint, incomplete figure and then trying to pair accessories later with it. It's just kind of a nightmare. There's a lot of repro out there. It's better to get a trusted seller that you know and love. But if you're still looking for stuff, you can always talk to Rogue 5 Toys. They always have accessories for sale. Make sure you jump on Rogue 5 Toys on Facebook. I think I included in the link in the video description to this video in the link. There's a link to their Facebook page. So make sure you join them because they are always selling accessories on that page. And Chris, Brandon, John, and Charles and Shane, they do a great job over there with their listings for accessories. So just be on the lookout, but when at all possible, try not to go down that route. It's much easier and much less headaches and stress just to buy a loose, complete figure. That way you don't have to track down accessories later on. Next up, I've got a Prune Face. He's another figure that seems to command big money. And one thing to keep in mind for Prune Face is that the crotch area on this figure does tend to change color over time versus the legs. And this one is a perfect example of that, where the paint has degraded on that crotch area and doesn't match the legs anymore. But nevertheless, that's still sold for $54.99, free shipping. And it's mainly because of the cape. You know, it's hard to find that cape and that weapon along with the figure. But that figure has definitely had some paint degradation going on, as you can see there. But a very cool figure and one of Chris's favorites. Here is a Snap Cape Luke Jedi, and he always commands big money. Tougher to find that Snap Cape variation versus the sewn cape. This included the Palace Blaster as well as a green lightsaber, and that one sold for 149.75 British pounds, which equates to about 171 bucks. So very, very expensive figure plus shipping on that one, but it looked to be in pretty great shape overall. Again, one thing you want to really take a close look at and ask for photos if they don't show it is that hand that is not gloved, because oftentimes you get a lot of paint rub, and it's because of this situation where they put the blaster in and out over the years, and the peach paint will wear off on his thumb or on his first index finger there. Next up, I've got a Cletus Skiff Guard. He's a very affordable figure to find loose and complete. This one looked to be in about 80 grade condition, a little bit of paint chipping around that gray arm there. And there are so many different variations for Klaatu. He's almost got infinite collectability. He's got the thin skirt like you see here. He's got the thick fluffy skirt. There's a Hong Kong variation. I believe there's a no COO. There's also the Lily Letty, and several different variations under the Lily Letty variants. I think I've seen 4 or 5 different made in Mexico Lily Letty Klaatus over the years. So a lot of fun to collect. And there's also different variations related to the limbs. You can have gray limbs, brown limbs, mixed limbs. So, you know, molded face, painted face. There's just so many different variations for Klaatu. I think I've got 4 or 5 myself. But anyway, very inexpensive figure to pick up, loose and complete. This one sold for $24 plus $4.95 shipping. Next up, I've got a Rebo Band, another data point for those of you looking. And Charles over at 5 Idiots Talking Toys, he loves collecting these and getting them graded. He said he's sent in like 5 or 6 different graded examples over the years. And this one sold for $150. This is another one where the flute and the microphones get very commonly sold repro. So just be very careful that they are actual vintage accessories versus repro. And the other thing is Max Rebo will discolor over time on the head as well as the limbs. And that's the case here. You can see how much darker the torso is, the dark blue, versus the limbs and the head. And those two, you know, the arms and the head have definitely discolored since, you know, since these were manufactured back in the day. So tough to find him, especially without any paint degradation. But that's another data point for those of you looking for a loose, complete Max Rebo Band. Last 17 figures to round things off. Here's Anakin Skywalker. This one sold for $32, so he's one of the more affordable last 17 figures. You can see around that right leg, he's got some kind of orange discoloration on the white portion of his leg there. And that might come off, it might not, but his hands are in great shape. The head's in great shape. The vest area, it looks to be very clean overall, but that sold for $32, free shipping. Good deal. Finally, we've got Yakface. We all know what Yakface has done over the years, especially with how we track him, you know, in our vintage updates. It looks like maybe he's got some torso discoloration. That yellow looks a little darker than I'm used to, but maybe I'm just misremembering. He also has some paint chipping around the hands and the boot area. So this is at best probably a 75 plus or maybe a low 80 grade condition Yakface. That was listed for $649.99 and it sold for $575. So even in near mint minus condition, you're still going to be paying big money for a Yakface these days. Anyway, that's all I really had for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.